It's the Witchy Weather Report. We are live. How are you feeling today? All right. Starting our live video, I will be reading for you today with the Shadowscapes Tarot by Stephanie Law. Live on the Instagrams, live on the YouTubes. Let me head over to the comments and see how everyone is. Hey, do me a favor. If you're watching this, tune in and say hello. Hey, Ondine, how you doing? If you're watching the replay, drop me a comment and let me know you're watching the replay, because I'm real curious to know who watches these live versus on the replay. If there's replay, folks, I want to make sure you're getting your value. Meow. As always, if you would like for me to pull a card for you, the secret code is to drop a cat in the chat. Drop a cat emoji or simply type meow and I will know. I always open up with the Witchy Weather Report with just a card for everybody. I'm shuffling right now and I'm reading from Shadowscapes Tarot by Stephanie Law. Great tarot deck, beautiful tarot deck. The one I felt called to this morning. How we doing? How are we feeling? Hey Judith, how you doing? Yes, there I am. So, also, I'll just give a little nod to the manifestation challenge. We're smack in the middle of our manifesting challenge. We're in week 2 during the waxing moon. If you are with us, how is your challenge going? I am manifesting grace and ease in my life. I'll be real honest, I don't know how it's going. But Ondine says, like this, with a hand pointing down. Oh boy. I'm trying to manifest grace and ease in my life. I'm making that measurable by checking in with myself each day, by asking myself how that's going and if I'm feeling grace and ease or if I'm feeling stressed. The proof is really in the pudding, you know. I've definitely made, I've become aware of some of the things that are making grace and ease a challenge for me. So I guess that's good. The first step is knowledge, right? And then I got to do the hard work of making it happen, you know, of making the choices that will put me in a more easeful frame of mind. Meow, says Judith. So, I don't know, moon is still waxing. It's still a great time to be taking those practical actions. We're going to have the full moon coming up. Hey Anna, how you doing? Morning and meow. I love that I just get a stream of meows now when I start the Witchy Weather Report. Like this is what I want out of life, honestly. I want to just go live and have people make cat noises at me on the internet every morning. I can't think of a better existence. Oh, the hand is pointing to a cat. Oh, you're being helpful. You're like, that's how to do it. Drop that cat emoji in there. Ondine says, I have to watch the replay. I was working. Well, no worries. You can find the replay. It's on all my channels. It's on the Instas. It's on the YouTubes. It's on the Twitches and the Facebooks. I'm very findable. At least I try to be. Even though Mercury is still in Gatorade, but it will be leaving Gatorade, I want to say on the 22nd. Let's see. I have one of my favorite websites is ismercuryinretrograde.com. Just a very, very simple URL to remember. And it says Mercury turns direct on Tuesday, June 22nd at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So that will be 6 p.m. my time Eastern. So Mercury is going to go direct right around 6 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday. There's always some time where Mercury is stationing where it's a little weird, but that's just in time for the full moon coming up on Thursday, which I think is an interesting confluence of events. So full moon's coming up Thursday. Full moons are always a good time for... They are a good time for manifestation. It's good to harness that powerful energy. And my attitude around a full moon is you're going to manifest whether you like it or not. That's the attitude I try to approach them with, is like, be sure of my energy so that because it's a powerful time. And so be mindful about what I am creating with that power, if that makes sense. It's also a good time for gratitude, and it's a good time for pausing and reflection. If you've been taking actions like I have been taking to manifest something in your life, it's a good time to pause and reflect and maybe put a little more spiritual oomph into that. And then I recommend in the time after the full moon, the next couple of days, as the moon begins to wane, reflecting on where we're at before taking further actions, seeing how things are going, acknowledging what there is to be grateful for, as always, both to ourselves and to others and to any power we believe in. And then allowing us to sort of make room in our lives for all these things we have been trying to create in our lives, because we can't just keep, it's beautiful to keep growing, but we need room, right? We can't keep creating things in our lives. They won't all be able to fit in our lives with what we already have. So it's good to mindfully do some decluttering during the waning moon, which will begin on Friday. Anyway, so that's my very little moon phasey weather report for you. And then I'm going to be pulling a card for us as well. Reading today from the Shadowscapes Tarot, which I just love. Judith says, pausing. Yes, the full moon and the new moon are a good time to take a little pause. One of my favorite ever, I went to see Rocky Horror live on Broadway. Gosh, now it's a bunch of years ago, at Circle in the Square Theater. And one of my favorite Columbias was my favorite, portrayals of Columbia. And it was just like a pun party. It's that time when she kind of loses it and goes a little nuts. And I remember her saying the phrase, "It gives one pause," and then making a cat pose, and me going yes, this is glorious. If you're not a Rocky Horror fan, maybe that doesn't mean a lot to you. Suffice it to say that puns are wonderful, and cat puns are the best puns. It's just universe. It's just facts. I didn't make the rules. Hey, Mary Jane, how you doing? Ondine says, otherwise the week is going okay. Some lifting of log jams starting Thursday night. What a time. What a perfect time, with the full moon and with Mercury having just gone direct. How are you feeling, by the way? How has Mercury retrograde treated you? I have to say, I feel that Mercury retrograde has treated me pretty well, which does not mean I have been without my share of snafus, but I have found throughout Mercury retrograde that when I have technological difficulties, it's often because I'm doing something I don't want to be doing. I'm doom scrolling or something, and then suddenly I lose my internet connection. And it gives me that moment of pause to be do I even want to be doing this? Maybe this is good. I did have a headlight go out on my car, and I keep forgetting to replace it. I've been driving around with one headlight, mostly not at night. But yeah, gotta do that today. Gotta do some headlight replacing. Judith says, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, yes. Mary Jane says, good, Mama, you? Pretty good. I have to say, I've been pretty good. My manifestation has taken the form of making me hyper aware of the areas where I need to create more grace and ease in my life for myself, and ways I can do that. And now I just have to do the things I know I have to do. Now I can't unknow it. And I feel like that Bob's Burgers meme where I'm fine, but I'm going to complain about it the whole time. Mary Jane says, Mercury retrograde, not bad this time around. Some computer issues at work. That's not so bad. Judith says, this is me not awake yet. Girl, same. I do this at 11 a.m. on Saturdays, and as a musician, that's early morning in my opinion. I usually get up for a 9 o'clock meeting with a couple of friends on Saturday mornings, and that means I wake up at 8:45 so I can roll out of bed and be on the computer. All right, let's talk about our card for the week. Here's our card. It is the Page of Swords. We keep getting pages. Didn't we get a page or a knight maybe last time? We're getting a lot of that. Page of Swords. Let's talk about swords, because swords have been coming up for me. Swords are about truth. Swords are about communication. The Page of Swords is about starting to discover your truth and starting to discover also that there are more truths than just yours. It really is this entry level kind of survey course of what is truth, right? I think many of us, at least I feel this way, when I was first becoming emotionally, like first kind of moving from child to adult, which can occur at various times in a person's life, you know. When I was first becoming aware of that, I was very concerned with truth. I was very concerned with finding out what was true spiritually, factually, and I really viewed things. I think a lot of people go through this at this point, that point in their lives, that kind of emotional, mental puberty. I really viewed hypocrisy as this as like this rampant thing of like people saying one thing and doing another, and how crazy that was, and it was unacceptable to me. And you know, over the years I've really learned that we all have a variety of truths that we hold within ourselves, you know, and a variety of truths presents itself anytime you try to look objectively at facts and stories. You ask someone what happened on the street, you know, people who were maybe witnessing a car accident or witnessing something happen, and you'll get three different accounts, often assertively, you know, like three different people will remember the guy wearing three different colors of shirt, you know, like he was definitely wearing a red shirt, he was definitely wearing a blue shirt. And it's, you know, in part, human memory is faulty, you know, so that's a piece of it. But it becomes our truth when it means something to us. And then we want to hang on to our truth even if it's not real, which can be a problem. And the Page of Swords really opens our eyes up to all of that. It just opens our eyes up to this following idea. It's not that simple, right? The truth is not that simple. The truth is not some beautiful white line of clarity. The truth is messy as hell. The truth is complex. The truth is nuanced. And when we speak our truth, which is an important thing to do, by the way, just because I'm saying it's not that simple, it does not mean that we need to adopt a nihilistic attitude like, oh, well, nothing matters anyway. Quite the opposite. I think it's important for us to speak our truth and for us to honor the truths of others. And one of the things I try to do when I do live streams like this that are like community based and stuff like that is create a safe space for us to share our respective truths and not walk on each other's truths in doing so. So that's the Page of Swords for you right now. How does truth play into your life right now? What does it mean for you to communicate your truth without walking on the truth of another? Conversely, are there times when we're being egged into communicating our truth specifically because maybe someone has walked on it with their own kind of aggression, their own kind of assertion? There's someone I am working with in a professional context right now who is very, I don't know what the right word is to say, like it's not just assertive, you know, kind of the emperor archetype in tarot, you know, very like, this is how I see it and this is how it is. Very black and white, very kind of snap judgmental. And as soon as he's made a snap judgment, whether it's correct or not, he treats it as truth and, you know, responds as such. And as such gives a lot of advice that doesn't necessarily apply. You know, like it's kind of becomes prescriptive. And it's interesting to watch that play out in someone who is otherwise really intelligent and really good at what they do. And it's really interesting to see how their truth, them speaking their truth, has led to me feeling sometimes that there's no point in speaking my truth, and sometimes to feeling like, no, I have to do this because it's right for them to know that their perspective is not the only one. You know, sometimes because someone else is aggressive with their version of the truth, we realize that it's important for us to raise our voice, because it is important to have more than one perspective in the world, especially when the perspective that is getting shared the most often is just the person who is loudest. You know, the person who is willing to be like, no, it's my way. That person is not necessarily the wisest person in the room. They're just the loudest. So, you know, the Page of Swords is where it's at this week. We're just negotiating all these concepts. We're negotiating the idea of truth. We're negotiating how to share our truth in a way that is helpful, not harmful, both to us and others, and also how to deal with others' truths. Because sometimes people share their truth in a way that is harmful, right? I definitely see this on social media. People saying like, well, this is how I see it and I turned out okay or whatever. And it really doesn't make room for other people's experience. And we're wrestling with that at this moment in time. We're wrestling with with opinions versus facts and beliefs and feelings. And and the truth that there is very little that is factually provable. And even when you have something that's factually provable, there is a large percentage of people who will just go on not believing it. So, like it's really like what is the truth? It's a relative term. There are things that are factual. There are a large percentage of the population who will willfully ignore facts on a variety of topics, and we all have to figure out how to live with them. So that's what we're dealing with today, and not in a real painful way. The Page of Swords indicates that this is more us opening our eyes. I don't even know that there's action to be taken other than us just being aware that these are topics that are coming up. It may be helpful to go through this week as a kind of meditation. It may be helpful to look at our interactions with others this week and our interactions with truth, fact versus fiction, fact versus feeling, as a meditation, as something to experience, and to assume that there's a lesson to be had, because pages are all students. What lesson do you have to learn about communication this week? I would love to know. Reading a couple of comments here. Anna saying, yes, it is hard to keep my lips zipped. I know what you mean. Mine too. But I'm trying to practice discernment too. Something I've been doing a little bit gleefully in the last week is allowing people to have a ridiculous opinion. Not a harmful opinion. I think sometimes there are opinions that are harmful. So I'm talking about bigotry. You know what I mean? Like when someone has a bigoted opinion, it is important for other people to speak up against it. It's important whether or not that person's mind gets changed to let people know that someone will stand against bigotry, for example. It's important to make it known that that belief, that a bigoted belief will not be allowed to take hold. And it's important to be an upstander rather than a bystander. But there are times when someone expresses an opinion that's just ridiculous, and it's okay to just move on with your life. And I've been kind of gleefully doing that the last week or so. And I'm not, I'm not talking about harmful opinions. I'm talking about opinions that just are not true, but you can tell it's that person's story. Like people who, well, the truth is that bread is a conspiracy and there's no such thing as bread. Or birds. Birds are a conspiracy to some people. Birds are a government plot, They're actually recording and surveilling us. And, if you've gone down that rabbit hole far enough that you sincerely believe that birds are a government plot, I don't even know what to say to you. And I don't have to say anything. I can just let you walk on with your weird belief about birds. And if you have this belief about birds, I mean, no disrespect. I can just let you walk through life with your weird belief about birds because it doesn't really hurt anyone, and it doesn't have to be my problem to teach you about birds. So I have been doing that a little bit gleefully this week. Anna says, is there a difference between a person's truth and a person's belief? I think maybe. For example, I think a truth comes out of our lived experiences. My truth revolves around, or doesn't revolve around, but has to do with the fact that I have been socialized and have had a female socialized experience for most of my life. And so I have experienced sexism, and I have experienced just different kind of behavior from society at large and from individuals based on the fact that I present female to them. That's a part of my truth. And it's not a part of my belief. It's a part of what has really happened to me. Whereas a dude, someone who has gone through life as a male, probably has had different experiences. And so their truth will differ from mine. Perhaps our beliefs differ as well as a result of our inner truths. But I think there is a difference, and I think there is a value in making sure all truths are heard for that reason. Anyway, let's see. Looking at some of these Instagram things. Hi, Kubit Make a Tarot. Hello, how you doing? Mary Jane saying this fits with the current political landscape. Yeah, it's big mood. I'm scrolling. I'm sorry, I'm slow at scrolling on the Instagram. Mary Jane says, ex-husband telling my son untruths, trying to live with the fact that I can do nothing about this except speak my truth and step back. That's very wise, and I know that's very hard to do. Yeah. All right. So that's what we're doing this week. We are rumbling with truth. What is your truth? What is the truth of another? What can we learn from this? What can we learn from the variety of truths presented to us? That's the real learning, in my opinion. That's where the rubber hits the road, where we stop going, what's the one true fact, because that's really hard to arrive at in any kind of certain way. And what's my truth and what's your truth and what's that guy's truth and what is the, truth of the current prevailing paradigm? And what does all this teach us? What do we have to learn? All right, I've got a lot of cats in the chat. I know Ondine was the first cat. Let me do a little scroll in here. I believe I have Ondine and Judith first, and then I'll do some more scrolling and see who else I have to pull cards for. I see a lot of you have dropped cats, so don't worry, I got you. Ondine says, life is multifaceted. Yes, it is. All right, I'm going to try and do this quickly for y'all because, as always, I have a stop at noon. 11 to 12 is when I do this on Saturdays. Now I'm formalizing it because that's what works for my schedule and because I think it's good for things to have time frames. We can appreciate them in that time frame, and then move on and do other things and look forward to it each week. So I'm going to try and lightning round you a little bit to make sure I get to everyone. Ondine, here is your card. Your card is the Fool. Really interesting as you're talking about things starting to open up for you. Log jams opening up on Thursday. Of course, we have Mercury going out of retrograde. I know that you have had both some personal and practical matters that you have been kind of grappling with. And the Fool indicates that you have an opportunity for a fresh start on this. This paired with the bright light of awareness that the full moon indicates, as well as our Page of Swords, indicates that this might have to do with truth. You might get your fresh start from a shift in perspective, from that kind of epiphany or knowledge drop that recontextualizes everything and suddenly lets you make a new choice that you did not know was on the table before. That's what's going on for you this week. Beautiful card. Who doesn't want the Fool? That's lovely. I'll take it. Yes, beginner's mind in a big way. And sometimes I think that's what happens. Sometimes we have an epiphany or someone says a sentence to us off the cuff that forces us into beginner's mind and it changes everything. I think those are very special moments. I was reading for someone. I was doing a reading on Zoom the other day. And I was like, oh, this card represents you. It's the Fool. And I forgot that not everyone has a background knowledge of tarot. The Fool's a really positive card. And this is someone who had never had their cards read before. And they're like, oh, I'm the Fool. And I'm like, it doesn't mean it's okay. It's good. It's good. It doesn't mean you're foolish. It's a new beginning. Oh, wow. Judith says, my first Zoom-based program gig is tonight. That's awesome, Judith. I love that. And that's like exactly the stuff you have been manifesting. I've loved watching your upswing, Judith. Like the world hit you with so much in the last 6 months. And I love watching you just like, yeah, whatever. You can't stop me. I've really loved watching that. Speaking of which, it is time for your card, Judith. All right, King of Pentacles. Wow. I love it. This is going to be a practical and pragmatic week for you about foundations in particular. You know my feelings about kings and queens. I don't necessarily gender these cards, although this could be about practical interactions with someone who is male and building foundations in that way for the future. It could also be about you embodying the King of Pentacles in your life. And I propose to you that both can be true. The King of Pentacles has this mastery over stability. And this mastery, the King of Pentacles is deeply rooted. As you can see, literally coming out of a friggin' tree. Literally, there is a tree. And so the good thing is that it takes a lot to topple the King of Pentacles, right? The King of Pentacles is so deeply rooted and so firmly, like, stands so strong and so tall that it is very, very difficult to topple the King of Pentacles. He has those strong foundations. And the negative can be being stuck in your ways, right? Can be like, okay, I have such strong foundations that it's difficult for me to be swayed towards something that might actually ultimately help with my growth. The King of Pentacles is a slow grower. Slow growth is sustainable growth for the King of Pentacles. And that may be something for you to be aware of as you work on growing your own projects. That it's about planting seeds. It's about getting very deeply rooted, because that's what's going to help you move forward in the long term in a very stable way. The King of Pentacles is obsessed with stability because he has tons of it and he values it. And it means that he can weather any storm. Oh, I love that. Judith says, my partner is definitely a King of Pentacles. That's awesome. That is what I thought of. I was like, I know Judith has a partner she's working with on this project who is male. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, and absolutely, yes, you may have a card. I'll add you to the list. There is a growing number of cats in the thread. People keep dropping cats, which I love. All right, let's see who is next. I'm going to scroll up, look at the comments a little bit. All right, I don't know who commented first where, so I'm going to do one from Instagram, one from Facebook, like that kind of vibe. Okay. Okay, Anna, then Mary Jane. Oh, I'm trying so hard to scroll, and Instagram is like, you want to make a comment, right? And I'm like, no, Instagram, I don't. Okay, we have Anna, Mary Jane, and then Lana are next. And don't worry, there's more people on deck. Don't worry, I'll get to you. But 3 is what fits in my brain. Anna, Mary Jane, and Lana. In that order, I am pulling cards for you. Anna says, a kitty litter. Yes, we have a kitty litter in the comments. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. By the way, folks, I do have, I'm going to stick it on my little banner. I have an Etsy shop if you are interested in ever ordering a full reading from me. And I know, Ruby, I know that I'm pulling cards for you this week for a small reading. And pulling cards for a couple other Witchy Weather Report regulars coming up this week. If you ever want to order from me, make sure you use your discount code. It's Witchy Weather Report, all one word. And I'm going to go ahead and put a couple other things in that ticker so that you have it. There, okay. Now I got that scrolling ticker. You can always throw some love in the virtual tip jar if you feel like it. I offer these readings freely, never expected, always appreciated. That's Venmo at Rory Kelly. Finally, I've been sharing this more and more. I have a Patreon, mostly for my podcast, but we've been doing a manifesting challenge this month. And it's been really, really cool, the conversations that are happening on the Discord for the patrons. So there's a manifesting challenge where if you're not a patron, you still can participate. It's we have a free live stream every week. You can watch the live stream live or watch the replay. And like we can do this like socially, you know, and follow along with each other's progress. I think that's really special. And in the Discord, we're just supercharging it. We're checking in not every week, but every day. And it's been really wonderful watching the conversations unfold there. Some of y'all are there and you know. So if you want to get in on that, it's patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot. I'm not always doing a manifesting challenge, but there are always really wonderful conversations happening. Okay, Anna, this card is for you. Anna, you have the 4 of Wands. Let's talk about this because this is a celebration card. We see these beautiful little I don't know, cute horned creatures, unicorns, like unicorn deers is what I'm going to call them, because that's my interpretation. Hopping, you know, gleefully. There's a real sense of success here and celebrating of success. And there's always a little bit of a like party celebration milestone atmosphere with the Four of Wands. Some people read it as the wedding card. I read it as a new beginning card. I read it as that milestone, because not every new beginning is a wedding, right? We can have things happen in our lives besides relationships, and sometimes it is a wedding, and that's lovely. It's a milestone. It's a time to pause and celebrate and notice what you've accomplished, and like drink to your success, you know, metaphorically, if that works for you. It's a time to get together and be grateful, and take the time again to be grateful to yourself, to recognize how far you have come, to recognize what is going on that has led to this, that has helped you, and your own role in it, like all that you've done. It's important for us to celebrate milestones, and it's important for us to attach ritual to them in some way. It doesn't have to be everyone else's ritual if that doesn't work for us, but it's a human psychological need to give ourselves rituals when we have successful milestones, as well as when we need healing. So that's going to be my challenge for you: is how can you ritually celebrate what you have been through, what you have created, what you have given and accomplished thus far this week. That's my challenge to you, because you do have plenty to celebrate. Mary Jane, pulling a card for you at this time. I'm reading some of the comments. You guys are great. Thank you for being in my life. All right, Mary Jane, here is your card. Reading today from the Shadowscapes Tarot by Stephanie Puimonlaw. Really amazing artist. I just absolutely love her work. This is the Three of Cups. Talk about celebration. Big celebration vibes, which doesn't surprise me, I guess, because we finally can get together and have those kinds of, you know, have parties, have events, have get-togethers and gatherings after, over a year of not being able to. The Three of Cups is your card. So there is a real time of reconnection, especially with the Three of Cups. And you know I don't gender cards too much, so take this with a grain of salt. But I do look at the Three of Cups often as a gathering of women supporting each other. And it doesn't have to be women, but I think it's important to acknowledge that when a group of people who have been marginalized gets together, this is true of women, this is true of people of color, this is true of people of religious minorities, this is true of queer people. When a group of people that has been marginalized gets together, there's a very sacred sharing that happens, and there's a deep empowerment that occurs just by comparing notes, just by showing up for each other, just by usually finding humor in it, usually acknowledging, hey, here's something we all face, but today we are not facing it. Today we're strong together, and today we're going to choose to laugh about it, and we're going to choose to have a joyful time. And that's the kind of power that, to me, the Three of Cups embodies, is getting together with people who get it, getting together with people who get your struggle, who get what you have been going through, and choosing to cheers and celebrate each other. You know, choosing to compare notes and commiserate and be kind to each other, but also to just find joy in the fact that you have each other, that you are not alone in this. It's a very, very powerful type of energy. So that is your card, Mary Jane. I love it. And I wish that energy on you. What a beautiful energy. Lana, I'm pulling a card for you at this time. Oh, I love it. Mary Jane says, I'm meeting up with two of my dearest female friends in Arizona in August. That's really cool. Lana, here is your card. Your card is also, Lana, the King of Pentacles. Big King of Pentacles energy today, huh? So we're going to talk about stability. we're going to talk about growing out of your stability. Right now, any growth that you want to see happen, it's a good idea to look at the growth you have already done and build on that. The King of Pentacles is excellent at growing on past successes. That doesn't mean that the King of Pentacles gets stuck on one project and never does anything else, but it might mean, for example, if the King of Pentacles is a business person, that when he starts a new endeavor, a new project, he draws on all the past experiences of other business dealings he has had. He draws on his success rather than just starting blind each time. So it's a good time for you if there is something you want to grow in your life, and if pentacles are coming up for you, that's probable. If there's something you want to grow in your life, this growth, the universe is telling you that this growth can come out of the resources you have already established for yourself. Look at your roots. Look at your current resources. Perhaps make a list of your resources. And when I say resources, I'm including your own wisdom, your own experience, any schooling you may have had, both formal and informal, the people in your life, their skill sets, as well as just the fact that they're invested in you and want to show up for you, right? Having a roof over your head, having those practical needs met so that you can focus on your growth, having social capital, having connections to other people. When we think about resources, it's very easy to get stuck on resource meaning cash money, right? It's very easy to get stuck on like, well, I don't have the money to do that, so I guess I can't move forward. And I'm here to tell you that our resource list is much more extensive than that. The King of Pentacles is aware of that, and the King of Pentacles grows his opportunities out of the resources he has already established for himself, out of that beautiful foundation he's created. So look to your roots, look to your foundation, and you may find opportunities there to help you with your new venture. Okay. Gonna do a little scrolling because I know I have a couple more cards to pull for people. Let's see. Let me go on the Instagram first because I always have trouble scrolling on Instagram. I'm like an old lady. I'm a geriatric millennial. I think that term is so funny that I say it at every opportunity. So, okay. Haiku but make it tarot. I am pulling a card for you. Ooh, there. Stay, phone, stay. Okay. Let's see who else I got here. Ruby, I'm pulling a card for you. Is there anything else? Oh, that's all I got. Haiku but make a tarot and Ruby. Okay. If I missed you, let me know. If I missed you, comment on me. Also, I've got an update for you guys about Sassafras Cast, which is my monthly podcast. I'll be recording my next podcast episode with a Witchy Weather Report regular, Patty Bell Hastings. Patty Bell has a business called soulshepherd.love. She is a certified hypnotherapist and does, as well as working with hypnotherapy, works with past life regressions. It's really fascinating. And full disclosure, I've been working with Patty Bell myself for the last few months. It's really interesting because it's not something I ever thought of exploring for myself. And she just came into my life very organically. We really get along. And we're going to be talking about her craft. We're going to be talking about hypnosis, and we're going to be talking about past life regression and how that can help us heal. That's what she really views her work as a healing modality. How those tools can help us to heal and get out of stuck patterns. So I'm really, really excited about that. Excuse me. It's going to be my first interview on Sassafras Cast. And if you're a patron, that's going to be live for you on an unlisted YouTube link at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday. If you are not a patron, look for it to drop around Wednesday, where you'll get the audio of that podcast. I think it's going to be really special. Okay. Haiku but make it tarot. Here is your card. Your card is the Five of Wands. Let's talk about this. As you can see, we have some crossed purposes here. The Five of Wands is a fighty card. It's also a flighty card. Fighty and flighty, not necessarily fight or flighty, but it can come up when our fight or flight instincts are triggered perhaps inappropriately, right? Like we talk a lot about that these days, about how we don't, as human beings right now in our established world, don't have a lot of reasons to fight, flight, or freeze in our lives. We are not often faced down by a mountain lion, you know. We usually just have stress in our lives that is triggering these responses in us because they're, you know, like evolutionary responses that maybe now are not, you know, are certainly needed if we do come into contact with a mountain lion, but are not needed day to day. So the Five of Wands really, really addresses different people being in their reactive mode, not their responding mode. And the way I'm differentiating those words is reacting is what you do when a mountain lion shows up and you're like, oh, holy crap, mountain lion, what do I do? Right? And you're not in your best space. You're just in your, I gotta go get away from this space. Responding is what we do when we have the time to step into our best selves and ask ourselves how we can, move forward wisely with a situation. So often, so to put this in non-mountain lion terms, right, when you're having a conversation with something and they say someone that kind of presses your buttons, you know, and you go into reaction mode rather than responding mode, where you perhaps get very defensive, or you go into a people-pleasing mode, you go into your old patterns, you know what I mean? That's reacting. Responding might look more like taking a pause and saying, you know what, let me get back to you about that. Or simply saying, you know what, I need to take a break. Let's get back to this conversation later, so that you can act as your best self, not as your reactive self, right? And the Five of Wands is what happens when everyone is their reactive selves. I have a friend who always describes this card as the Facebook comments on a political post, right? Everyone's reacting. Everyone's getting personally affronted. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say it like, this is human. We talked about having our truths, right? And it's a human truth that our buttons get pushed, and that we're not always our best selves when our buttons get pushed. And this is what happens when everyone is letting their buttons get pushed and not getting their best selves, and everyone feels like they're in a fight. And as you can see in this card, I'll hold it a little closer for you. These foxes and this kind of warrior in the background are literally all pointing in different directions. They're not even fighting with each other. They're just fighting. They're just in fighty mode. It's just this feeling that they're riled and they need to be aware. Friggin', I heard there was a mountain lion coming. And so for you, especially paired with this week's card of the Page of Swords, this is a time for you to rumble with that, to rumble with responding versus reacting. To ask yourself if there are strategies you can use right now to respond to what's going on in your life rather than to react, to be your best self. And because we're human and we're going to become reactive because we're human, I am going to encourage you not to make that about willpower, not to make that about you going like, well, I just have to do better. That doesn't help you in the moment, right? I'm encouraging you to strategize ahead of time, to know that there will be things that happen that press your buttons, and to be kind to yourself about that. You know, like, you're going to have your buttons being pressed by the universe. You're going to have times where you're not your best self. So what are strategies you can set yourself up to get yourself back into that mindfulness? You know, is it setting up a strategy of knowing that maybe you're going to talk to someone who does press your buttons occasionally and choosing to limit that conversation to a certain number of minutes, having an out? You know, having that conversation, but having in your back pocket, being able to say, you know what, I have an appointment I have to get to. We'll have to pick this up at a later time, so that gives you a chance to back off if you know your buttons are being pressed. And it's not always conversations. You know, there are other things that can push our buttons. But I'm going to encourage you this week to give yourself strategies to allow yourself to respond rather than react to what life throws at you. And I'm encouraging you to strategize around it instead of just expecting yourself to be better. That's a little bit cruel when we're just like, oh, I should be able to handle this. Let's give ourselves tools for success. You know, that is your journey this week. All right, I got one more card to pull. I see someone else tuned in on Instagram. Hello, Divine Empress. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll let you all know if you would like me to pull a card for you during the Witchy Weather Report. You can indicate that by dropping a cat in the chat. It's a cat emoji, or just by saying the word meow. That's our secret code. And it's just because when people are saying, can I have a card? Occasionally we get spammers who come in that seem to be triggered by those words. So we don't want spammers. So I just have you drop cats. All right. This is my last card, and it's for you, Ruby. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got. Yep, I see Ruby asking for the cat, and I don't see any cats below it. Okay. Temperance. Ruby, we've been having talks during our manifesting live streams too about finding balance between two competing goals, and temperance is your card this week, indicating that that continues to be a focus for you. And I'm going to suggest that perhaps your goal this week, and I know this isn't exactly what I said the first week of the manifesting challenge, perhaps your goal this week is to find a way to have those things be in balance, and to remind you that balance is a constant shifting of energy, right? Balance isn't like, I'm balanced, everything is good. As soon as you get balanced, if you've ever done yoga and done a balancing pose, you know this. As soon as you get balanced, something changes, maybe externally, maybe internally, right? Maybe like you see something that distracts you, or maybe your mind wanders, and you distract yourself, and then you're like, oh, right? Balance is a constant series of adjustments. So your card being temperance means committing to lovingly making those adjustments for yourself, committing to every day discovering what it looks like to keep your life in balance. And I'm going to define balance, healthy balance, being what helps you feel sane. I'm going to be that simple, because when you have multiple things you're working towards, I know from experience that if I'm not working on my goals, I don't feel sane. I don't feel like I'm living right. So what is it that will allow me to live right? As someone who has multiple goals, for example, I really desire to have a healthy, well-rounded life where I am not a workaholic, which is something I've struggled with. And I also have professional goals that are deeply important to me. And each day I have to ask myself, what will help me strike that balance? What will help me feel good about the work I'm doing on my professional goals, and what will help me feel good about my other goal of, taking good care of my body and my mind, right? So that's the question I'm going to encourage. Whoops. I reversed that for you. That's the question I'm going to encourage you to ask yourself each day. What's going to make me feel like I am living right around these goals today? And to accept that you can't work on every goal every day, right? That's reality. So it's asking yourself, what is the most urgent adjustment or action that is needed? And taking that action in confidence that tomorrow you'll do the same exact thing, and that over time it will even out and you'll be putting your effort in the way that you need to. Trusting yourself enough to know that the Ruby of tomorrow will rebalance, and the Ruby of the day after that will rebalance, and that you'll keep doing that every day, and that it'll be okay. That is your card. And here we are. It's 11:51. And I'm through with everyone's requested cats. So here's what I'm going to say to you. It's going to be a great week. We have a full moon coming up. We have Mercury going direct on Tuesday evening. Eastern time, it'll be 6 p.m. Those of us who are in the manifesting challenge, I'm very excited about this week. It's our big action taking week, and then the full moon comes, it's culmination, we'll switch into waning mode. I'm excited about that because it's something I've struggled with, and I'm excited to rumble with it with you guys. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot going on in our lives. I don't know if I'm the only one who feels that way, but things are moving very quickly in 2021. I think in part because things moved very slowly in 2020. External forces moved quickly. We had situations we could not control in so many ways. In 2021, many of us are very intent on taking matters back into our own hands. We've had time to reflect, like it or not, and we are ready to make big changes in our lives. And as a result of all that energy, I've talked about it before, night energy, K-N-I-G-H-T, we're all on our individual quests. Things are moving quite quickly. We are co-creating an environment that can feel a little bit chaotic because each of us is very dedicated right now to creating change in our lives and perhaps change in the world. So I encourage you to take care of yourselves in that intense energy. Judith says very intense energy. Yeah, I agree. I don't know a single person who hasn't been affected by it, honestly. I encourage you to take good care of yourselves. this week. I encourage you to treat this week as a meditation where you ask yourself, what can I learn from this, instead of being in your reactive space. And I'll see you again next week at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for the Witchy Weather Report. If you love this and you want more of it, check out my Patreon page where I do have some public posts as well as some locked ones for patrons only about my manifesting challenge. And subscribe if you can to the podcast so you get to hear that podcast that's going to be coming out this week. It's Sassafras Cast. All one word. You can search that on anywhere you listen to podcasts. Sassafras Cast. And find me. Thank you so much, my dears. Have a wonderful. Go gently.